And welcome to the Aaron Katzman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katzman. We speak about your life, your money, and your investments. And as always, we're coming to you from the spiritual and soon to be financial capital of the world, Jerusalem, Israel. As always, if you like this content, please hit the like button below. And if you have not yet done so, be sure to subscribe to both the YouTube channel as well as the podcast. So we're continuing on our journey towards for you to become an entrepreneur. And it's my honor to introduce today Adena Mark, who is founder and CEO of A to Z Events Israel. She's originally from New York. She's a wife, a mother of 6, and a stepmother to 2. That's an entrepreneurship business in itself, it sounds like. She's organized, she's creative, down to earth with love and magic and sparkle. She loves the elegance found abroad and authentic, practical warmth of Israel, and she's here to put together your event in Israel. Adena, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So you're doing event planning in Israel. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the business. You're from originally New York, correct?
Correct. I'm originally from Woodmere, Long Island, New York. Living here for 19 years. We came on aliyah with 5 children, had our 6th here in Israel. Shortly after that last child, so a few years later, we divorced. And since that bio was written, I'm also the mother-in-law of 2 and a grandmother of 1. So like you said, that's an entrepreneurship of itself, running that whole ship. And so, yeah, so I came from a background of entrepreneurship, living in New York with my then husband. We had a very high-end interior design business, catering to high-end clientele and mostly residential homes, but also commercial properties. I saw a lot of similarities in the skills set required. And I also saw this need that there's a whole lot of people who are coming to Israel to celebrate their milestone special occasions from all over the world, from the United States and Canada, Europe and Australia. And so they very often are looking for someone not only on the logistic, like language and time zones and, like in that sense, but also someone who could say like, these are my expectations and these are my standards and here's what I'm used to, from where I come from. And I found myself able to like meet those needs for them, where I was able to relate to the Israeli side and aspect of it and ways of doing business, also being able to understand what their expectations are from where they're coming from. And so that's something that is very, very much what I do, a big part of what I do.
Okay, so growing up, did you like have the itch to have your own business, or you just, it's sort of something that sort of fell in your lap? Like, how did that process start?
Well, I grew up, my father was also an entrepreneur businessman and ran his own business. And I feel like if I go back into my childhood memories, I feel like he was one of the only dads who did that. A lot of my friends' dads were salaried employees, whether they were in a business or in a profession. But he was one of the few dads that I could remember that was an entrepreneur. He was a businessman. So that was something that like I lived with and I breathed. And I remember just like a lot of our life was around that. So, did I always plan on it? I don't know, but I guess like the seeds were planted some way.
And I'm going to jump out of sequence for a second because it's something that just struck me, which is fascinating. You came to Israel, divorced, right? Were a single mother of many children. And instead of deciding to play it safe and become a salaried employee, you just jumped into the deep end and started your own business. Can you tell us a little bit about how that worked, your thought process, that's like really rolling the dice.
It really was a thought process. I have to say that there definitely was a journey until I really jumped in head first. I did feel like I needed a little bit of security and knowing what was coming in on a monthly basis on a financial level. Yeah, so I did start off with I had some full-time and some part-time jobs. So like while I was building my business and while I was formulating this plan and figuring out how I was going to do this, I did need that like financial security. But I always, I worked in the industry. I worked in places and for people that I felt like I was gaining knowledge and learning and making contacts and networking and so like it was always in that direction. Like that was part of the plan. But I knew that, I mean, I guess I knew
Did you
that
talk to people? Did you like bounce the idea
yeah,
off of your friends? Say, you know what, I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to start my own business.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you did that. And what
yeah,
was their
I did.
reaction?
Very mixed, you know.
Mhm.
They're like, you know, there's a mindset. People have a mindset. There are people who are the mindset of get a salary, get a good job, and have a salary and have security. And then there are people who are the mindset of being business owners. Like it really depends on who you speak with. And when I spoke to a lot of other divorced moms, so some of them were like recreating themselves. Like they decided to take that opportunity, let's call it, and go to school and get a degree and and reinvent themselves. And I came from New York with a bachelor's degree, a bachelor's in communications. Like, what do you do with that? You do anything you want with that. But basically, I was a business-minded person, and so doing that wasn't in the cards for me. Like, I didn't like have any thought of going to school or getting any sort of degree. So for me, it was like use what you've got. Like you have these skills and you have this personality, because it's also a skill and it's also a personality, and I guess it's also some sort of like confidence self believing in
Right.
yourself, and it was a lot of mixed. I have to answer your question. I got mixed reviews, mixed advice.
So I would say the series during the series, it's been very clear that, especially in this country, people are very opinionated, and if they think you've got a good idea, they'll tell you, and if they think they've got a bad idea, they'll tell you.
Right.
But they don't necessarily have any skin in the game. But I mean, I assume that you would agree that one of the most important parts of starting your own business is having some thick skin, right? The
Yeah.
people who say no, you can listen to them and maybe they have good reasons and you can incorporate them, but you have to sort of, plow ahead, right?
Yes, I think you have to have a thick skin. I believe also in doing your research. Like what's out there. Are you filling a need? Are you filling a need that's you're the only one out there that you came up with this amazing idea, or are you like, is there enough room for more like you? And I did. I researched a lot. I mean, I interviewed for a lot of positions that when I look back now, I'm like that's crazy. Like I would never do that. Like working in hotels or working in, like restaurants, hotels, anything that had to do with hospitality and events. I was there. I was looking into everything. I did a lot of research. Um, I did a lot of research, and I learned a lot, and I made a lot of connections. And the end of the day, when you take the leap, you take the leap. It's a leap, right? And I realized that I was not like reinventing the wheel. There was plenty out there like me. Everyone has their strengths and their stronger points and their specialties, and in a big market and in a successful market, there's always room for more, and competition is always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so and like when again, like going back to that idea of like different people giving me different advice. You also like have to like like no one else is in your shoes until they're in your shoes. So the advice for a woman going into her own business or deciding to become an entrepreneur who has perhaps a significant other who might be contributing to their monthly income, or who has no children, or has fewer children, or who has grown children. Like each situation is unique into itself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you actually have a really unique situation or position that we haven't had so much on when we've been doing this series, and that's that you've had a business in 2 different countries.
Hmm.
Can you sort of compare the experience of being a business owner in the US versus a business owner here?
In terms of the like customer relations, like what
I
do
would
you
say
mean?
customer relations and what goes along, right? The not fun part of a business, which is the technical stuff, right? The
Yeah.
dealing with the bureaucracy and the licensing,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
I think that it like most things, when you compare Israel to where I come from, to the United States, I think like most things, you find that I found that there was a lot more resources and support for small business owners, whether it was like free or not, but there was a lot more resources of teaching you, explaining to you, guiding you, whether it was like opening a bank account or getting your business license or insurance contracts. things like that. I feel like there was, I think it was a long time ago, but I feel like I remember back then that I had an easier time accessing the resources that I needed. I also felt like there was a lot more encouragement, government encouragement for small business owners.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
I think it's
here,
really interesting. I think it's really interesting because you're coming to a foreign country with a foreign language and a foreign culture, a business culture, yet you, even with those, obstacles in the way, you found it almost easier to do it here, or at least more resources to do it here. I think it's really interesting.
And then maybe it's because I needed to, like, you needed to try harder and look harder and like, access things that we didn't. I don't know, like, it's like a lot of things. When you come here, you just become a kind of more your own advocate, and you have to do things for yourself. So at least I found, like, I had to, find out things for myself. If I had to, like, give another example of something like that, it's like with medical care. I feel like here also, as moving as an immigrant with, like the language and different things, I just found like I put a lot more effort and research into like finding the things that are right for me than I used to have to. But to compare the businesses, so because my client, even though my business is in Israel, but my clientele is mostly the same. So like my clientele are mostly Anglos, mostly North American Anglos or European Anglos. So in that sense, like the services that I provide, or the level of services, the standards of, customer service and things like that, they're very, very, very similar. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about the business, right? You've mentioned a little bit North American clients, but what is it that, from what is the A and what is the Z and what is everything in between?
Right. So imagine when you're planning an event from abroad, and I have a range of let's say stages of the planning when people contact me. Sometimes people contact me once they kind of already have a date or a range of dates that they know that they're looking at. They've spoken to their family or and let's say their own personal, professional schedules, and they kind of know a date. And then they contact me like, where should we go? And what should we do? And all we know is that we want to get married in Israel. That's all we know. And sometimes they've already contact me after they've already secured a venue. So they do have a date, but now it's like, okay, where do I go from here? I need photography. I need music. I need so many things, and I don't know where to go from here. And so A to Z means you can call me at any stage. And I have clients who call me like a year in advance. I have clients who call me 6 months in advance and 3 months in advance. It really depends on the event and the situation. But A to Z means like whatever it takes for you to plan your event in Israel, and especially with the overseas factor, like the destination wedding or the destination bar mitzvah factor. So inevitably that means digital invitations, because you're sending invitations to people, worldwide. So we're not putting them in an envelope with a stamp. It means, coordination or handling of like accommodations and travel, and like things that like a little bit are outside of the realm of that exact day itself. Like that day of the event is not the only thing that's important to them because of their overseas factor. So A to Z means all of those things, everything that has to do with the actual event itself, and everything that you need prior to the event and like surrounding the event.
So you do like weddings and bar mitzvahs. Do you also do families who just want to come and vacation in Israel? Do you like do itineraries for them also?
Okay, so like you just asked me the question, this like in 2 weeks, I actually have exactly that. I have an incredible event coming up. It's a week-long event. The actual client who contacted me, he made a great business deal. He did like a really great, like he got his company got bought out. Okay. And he wanted to celebrate by bringing his family from all over the world to Israel for like a family reunion to celebrate his big business accomplishment. And so we're bringing in people from Texas, LA, London, and Argentina. Wow. And New York. Wow. Okay. And New York. And there's also one who lives in Israel, and they're coming from all over. And it's a family reunion to celebrate this event. And so we're doing like a week-long traveling, like I wouldn't call it an itinerary. It's like a lot of experiences, like family together experiences around Israel, and also a few really special events.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
What would you say along your journey of being an entrepreneur has been sort of the hardest thing?
Oh my gosh. You know, I think the hardest thing is also the best. It's both. It's the hardest part and the best part, which is like it's all on me. And sometimes you feel like alone, so to speak. Like you just feel like it's all on you. So in a good way and a bad way. And that goes back to what I said to you earlier, which is like it's a personality type, like some people don't have that in them to like be able to take it all on themselves, the good and the bad, like all the blame and all the credit, all the responsibility and all the glory. And I feel like that's for me a lot. I would say that that's probably for me the best part and the hardest part.
I was going to say that's probably the best part and the hardest part.
Yeah.
I think it is for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
finally, if you have to give, a lot of prospective entrepreneurs watch this series and they send me emails all the time and they, tips and this and that. If you had like a tip to give somebody who's thinking of starting their business, what would it be?
Well, in terms of starting the business, I would say like believe in yourself and have a lot of, like you said, have a lot of thick skin and perseverance and really want it and want to do it. Like there's too many obstacles and hardships that go along with it that if you don't really want it and believe in it, you won't be able to. So that's like in terms of starting the business. And then I would say, and I'm still working on this myself, if in terms of success of your business, success of your career, decide what that means. What is your success? Like, is it a dollar amount? Is it a position? Is it some sort of like, what is that goal that you will consider to be a success, and then work towards that? Because otherwise you're never going to stop. Like you're always going to like be searching for the goal and for the success and not really know what it is. Like kind of like that, the wheel, the gerbil wheel. So I feel like it's important to like have a goal that you want to attain and then work towards that. And that's how you measure your success.
That's great. That is definitely, I agree with that 100%. That's really, really good. I was actually thinking about that today. I was walking to my office and I was exactly that point I was thinking of. Like, how do you define success? Like, are you happy with where you are and how much you make and that's fine? Or do you always need more and more and more? And what is it that would ever make you happy? And I think without that answer, how can you, it's not that you're not be satisfied. You're just going to be sort of running in place, like you said, like the gerbil. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you're sort of like I don't know how much time we have, but I'll tell you where I got that where I got that from was like listening once to a podcast for this like psychologist who worked with she had worked originally in like corporate America, and then she also worked with sports teams. And she said like the main difference was that like in corporate America, she very often had to say to them, what is your goal? Like if you want me to help you attain your goal, meaning your employees and your goal, so like I'm going to help you and we'll come up with the tools and the outline of what we need to do to get that goal. As opposed to when she was working with athletes and in sports teams, they had a very specific goal in mind. And so she knew like what they were going for, and that was easier for her to like create their content for them, like how you're going to get to your goal. Maybe it was like winning the trophy, or maybe it was getting MVP or whatever it was, but it was like much more like specific. And that made me think a lot like, yeah, we also have to have that in business. We also have to have what's our goal? It could be money. That's okay. Mm-hmm. But maybe it's not, like whatever that is for you, you have to decide it. And then you can feel successful.
Yeah. I think that's spot on. I would say that the people that I know, making X amount of money as having their goal are not the ones who end up reaching their goal, because ultimately it's a little bit empty, right? I think you need a little bit more. There has to be something a little bit deeper than just, if it's helping people one way or another, whatever, it has to be something more satisfactory than just a specific dollar sign.
Well, I don't even know if it's a matter of like that it's meaningful enough for them, but it's more what I see is if somebody says, okay, I want to make $1 million. So they make $1 million. Well, now what? I want to make $1.5 million. Now I want to make $2 million. Like you never really can get to a successful point. Like
Right.
you can't reach that because it's too variable. It moves, you know, like make it more concrete, like have like a finish line. You can still keep going. You're still going to keep working and you're going to maintain where you are. At least you could say, wow, I did it. I reached
Right.
my goal, you know?
That's
Yeah.
great. Adena, that's fantastic. Thanks so much. How can people once again get in touch with you?
So Adena, Adena at A to Z Events Israel, or you can, you know, Google A to Z Events Israel on the web and you'll find my website, and I'm sure you'll find all my social media links.
Those of you who are thinking of doing any kind of an event in Israel, as we learned, it could be a wedding, it can be a bar bat mitzvah, it could be a family reunion if you hit the big time with an exit.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, Adena's here to put together your event. You've been watching the Aaron Katzman Show. We speak about your life, your money, and your investments. Be sure to hit the like button below. If you've not yet done so, subscribe to the YouTube channel and to the podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you soon.